Produce living on channels for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. We are a few hours away, likely, from a Bitcoin ETF. Blockworks has put together this handy dandy spreadsheet here for the Bitcoin futures and spot products. I'm sure they'll be adding details as we go here. There's also an Ethereum ETF tracker. Blockworks' true passion, of course. I'm sure it's really pained them to have to discuss Bitcoin in any degree that they've discussed it lately. Obviously kidding, but they are ETH maxis through and through, DeFi maxis through and through over at Blockworks. So I'll put these links in the description of the video. Yesterday I talked about the weekly edge-to-edge screener that I pulled off of TradingView. I'll put a link to this spreadsheet in the description of this video. So the first step was figuring out how to do a screener, how to set it up, what to look for. Specifically, I wanted to look for edge-to-edge setups on weekly clouds. Those have the highest reward to hopefully a minimal risk, right? So the risk reward profile is very favorable. Upside potential, very favorable. That narrowed it down to around 240 potential coins. And then from there, you can do some additional curation here. Does it have a bullish decay cross? What is the percentage exactly of the upside? Not all this data is 100% accurate. I don't know the exchanges that they're using when they pull this data. So this isn't guaranteed to be automatically correct. Definitely have to spot check this, which I did for a lot of this stuff. But you want to start with a wide net, which whatever your strategy is for alts. Hey, maybe it's, you know what, I saw this Twitter Spaces and I really liked the way the devs were talking. Okay, if that's your system, that's fine. I'd prefer to be a little bit more systematic with it, a little more technical based on my approach. But hey, if you want to trade ultra micro caps, that's okay too. I'm just showing you what I'm doing. This isn't telling you to follow me. I don't want you to follow me. I want you to figure out on your own what you like to do. I'm just telling you what I do. Okay, you're not going to like what I'm doing. I guarantee you that. Anyway, this is the screener. This is the list. I've already purchased some alts. Okay, AVAX was a part of my bag at some point. I let that go, I think, at 48, just because it looked like it was topping. The Solana and Link bags got considerably smaller as I rotated out of those into Bitcoin and ETH at this point a week or two ago. Beyond the first pass curation of the screener, I would also encourage people to break it down by sector. Just you want to make sure you're not hyper concentrated into any one thing for any specific purpose, unless you are, if you're super bullish NFTs and GameFi, go for it, right? I don't want to be overexposed to that sector. I don't want to be overexposed to DeFi or layer ones or whatever other thing, right? AI, file storage, cloud storage. I don't want any surprises, right? If something comes down that there's some regulatory stablecoin bill and I'm in stablecoin stuff, right? Just as an example. The SEC has also come out with a list, and CoinGecko has that list of alleged securities, okay? This is the list that they've specifically named in filings going after other exchanges or other securities, okay? You don't have to agree with it. Most people will not care, but again, I don't want to be surprised. It's important to just know, what does the SEC consider a security? What other coins look like those coins, right? For instance, they haven't called out Phantom, but they've called out every other token as a security. They haven't called out any layer 2s other than Matic, right? They haven't called out IMX. Some of the stuff was born yesterday, right? So it isn't really on their radar anyway. One other quick note, you'll notice that the coins that don't have values here just didn't have a weekly cloud. So we put all this together. Definitely double check these numbers if you ever run a screener. I've got RSI on here as well. This is the daily RSI. Again, you just want to make sure, are we mega overbought? I don't want to jump into something that's crazy overbought. And then I know people are asking they always want to know, like, how much do I have? Okay, here you go. This is my total bags at the moment. This is January 10th, right? It is nothing. It is very small as a percentage of my portfolio. A sliver, a slice, not even a slice, a micromillimeter, okay? Micrometer, a nanometer. It is nothing, okay? So my focus is Bitcoin and ETH predominantly. but I know some people were curious as far as what this looks like. What do my holdings look like? This is going to change over time. I'll document that here. I expect these to grow, definitely, especially as we get closer to halving, as some of these watchlist coins start to look better. You know, a lot of these do not have a bullish TK cross, for example. So it's a judgment call, right? Some of these have thousands of % moves potentially, depending on if this data is correct. And, you know, is it worth starting to accumulate any of the GameFi stuff, right? Because I don't have exposure to that currently based on the risk reward profile set up here. I would argue probably yes, but I'm going to wait because I just, you know, it doesn't really matter to me enough. I'm in no hurry here. This is super boring. I don't care about the fundamentals or the news or the community or the development. I don't care about any of that stuff. All I care about is how does the chart look? So let me go through the charts of these coins today, and it should be fairly obvious what I'm looking at. And if you've never heard about, if you don't know what the cloud is, I'll explain that. This is Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin still looks fine. It is arguably an ascending triangle breakout, second ascending triangle since the 28K break. Cloud looks fine. TK cross looks fine. Maybe we have additional sell the news. Maybe we don't. Maybe the flows are hyper bullish day one, week one, month one. Maybe they aren't. Maybe the outflows from GBTC are enough to overcome the inflows. Maybe they aren't. Where else can we go here? It's a giant toss up, right? I know there's been a cacophony of people on Twitter saying, now's the time to rotate into ETH, folks. I'm not one of those people. So we'll see how it all shakes out. ETH should do well. Alts should do well, but alts do better post-halving. Alts do better when rates come down. I'd rather wait for the larger cycle than play around with what I think is happening right now on most of the alts. Anyway, I think we might see 50. We might see 52. Anything above 48 is asking for quite a bit, considering historically we've never been above the 48K equivalent in a pre-halving environment. But this looks fine to me. I have no worries here as far as bullish continuation. We look good on that front. Now, if we break down below this diagonal support, if we break the Kijun, if we break into the cloud, yes, then things turn bearish. But this doesn't scream to me, hey, I need to be rotating right now. And I'll look at the ETH BTC chart. I know there's been a lot of celebrating on that front. Here's ETH finally decided to move, which is good. It has been in the weekly cloud for quite some time. It has lagged. It historically has been a laggard. It's just painful when you see Sol moving hundreds of % if you're sitting in ETH, right? This edge to edge is still live. It's still active to 28. I'd imagine this caps out at 32 in the near term. And that's really the other question. What do you expect in the near term? Do you expect news and macro stuff to cap our upside here? Or do you expect us to just move at the beat of our own drum and everyone's hyper focused on the next thing, right? The next thing is the ETH ETF. Let me tell you all about it, when we haven't even seen the flows for the BTC ETF. And we can go back and look at the ETF tracker. I don't think, do they not have dates yet? So they don't have dates in the spot side of things. I'd have to go and look at Bloomberg what the total list is for the dates. And you know, that's going to be the next conversation, obviously, is ETH, ETF. Anyway, USD chart looks fine. ETH BTC is still below the daily cloud, still below the weekly cloud. The trend is still bearish. Everyone's trying to bottom tick ETH BTC. I don't understand. I just think there's so many people who are underwater on ETH that they're trying to will this thing higher. It's still bearish, right? We can try to make a higher high. I don't think we will. I could be wrong. You know, there's a mini bull div that's playing out here, but talk to me when we know what the flows are. Talk to me next week, in a month, and I'll bet ETH BTC is either down or flat. That'd be my guess. That'd be my guess. As far as the ETH beta stuff, this is optimism, you know, in a similar spot really relative to ETH on the ascending triangle journey. Still looks fine. Still looks bullish, right? I don't think, again, for a lot of this stuff, there's nothing to do. If you're in it, you're holding. I don't think there's any rush to sell anything here. If you are not participating or looking to accumulate, any pullback is viable. Anything, right? Most of these alts just had a pullback last week or yesterday or whenever it was. Optimism, you know, retraced to like 290. Any daily Kijun touch is fair game for me on a pullback. Arbitrum, same thing. It's bouncing, right? ETH beta doing well over the past couple of days. Solana also at the daily Kijun, probably justification enough to add to a position if you're looking to actively trade this. Not investment advice. It's in the middle of Pitchfork, which is great. Still above the daily cloud. I just question how much more is left in this in the near term because it was up so much last year, right? The reason it was up so much last year is because it was down so much the year prior, which tells me it probably has a more muted 2024, especially relative to everything else, including ETH, that just hasn't done anything yet, right? ETH's journey is just starting. So for most people, there's probably not a hurry to like re-add to this position because they think it's going another 5x from here. It probably will in the cycle, but in the near term, I think other stuff is going to start to catch a bid because Sol's already up so much in the year. ADA weekly cloud looks fine, right? Again, there's nothing to do other than where am I going to add? I don't think there's any question about taking profits down here or cutting a position down here, decreasing a position down here. For me, if I'm touching any of this stuff ever, I want a crazy upside, right? I want a 5x, I want a 10x. Otherwise, I don't want to think about it. So anything from here to the lows at 23 is fair game on an ad in my book. Upside potential is, 150, 170, whatever that is up there. But that's going to take time. It's going to take lots of time. Got to be patient. Doge, the same thing. Anything from here to lows are viable as far as adding to a position. This may take another 6 months. This may form some mega inverted head and shoulders bottom and then break out on one day and then sell off for another 2 years, right? So I just want to be there and ready when that happens. If you are actively trading the alts, I would just keep that in mind. Some of this stuff, it's just not going to be that alt's day, week, month, or year, right? It's going to take some time. And I know a lot of people are looking at Doge because Bonk moved, and including myself, thinking like, yeah, okay, the meme play is active right now. You've just got to be patient and have some conviction over the next 6 to 18 months. Honestly, this could take quite some time. Dot still looks good as far as the edge-to-edge setup. 3, 4, 5x, maybe, potentially even from here. Just needs some time in the cycle. Link as well, trying to decide, is it going to reset momentum? Is it going to break down on this head and shoulders? Is it going to return to the range? On the weekly chart, looks fine. Definitely a little bit of a speed bump to likely higher move eventually down the line here. Even if Link were to lose the daily cloud, it still would be holding in the weekly cloud. ETC is another one, 3, 4, 5x. I don't know, somewhere in there, right? I'm willing to throw some money at this to see what happens, just because the upside is still pretty considerable and it looks really, really good on the high time frame clouds. And if we go to 100 again on ETC, I want to be there to say that it happened and I was there. Filecoin also looks fine on the 3-day cloud. It looks just as good as ETC. Double bottom, Adam and Eve. Again, all this stuff's kind of boring, right? I'm just looking for the same setup over and over and over again. Most of this stuff has sold off for 3 years, found a bottom, and is ready potentially for a move to the upside. And that's all I care about. I don't care about being right or wrong here. These just have a very favorable risk reward setup. Algo, same thing, about ready within the next 2 months, probably. Another 8 candles here for this weekly edge to edge move. Also potentially will have pretty gnarly looking inverted head and shoulders at some point in time, but this looks fine for a move higher. Aave inside the weekly cloud looks fine. Again, like all this stuff, it's the same trade. It's just a variation on this mean reversion setup with a reversal through the cloud. SNX, same thing, almost identical, right? I don't want to be exposed to 10 different DeFi charts that look the same and are in the same sector, but to me, these are some of the best 2. Comp is up there as well. This looks good for 4 or 5x from here. Totally fine with that. Another reason why I stick to the higher cap stuff, I don't want to be in a coin for an extended amount of time that has the potential to be delisted, has the potential to be regulated out of existence, or just has a higher potential to not come back, right? Like some of the GameFi stuff, the charts look good for a potential setup, but that doesn't mean that the retail participation mania type stuff will return that helped bring those prices up in the first place, right? So you just have to consider, just because the chart looks good, you kind of have to think about what could go wrong here, right? Certainly DeFi could get regulated into oblivion, and that's a big risk for those charts. IMX, a little different than the edge-to-edge setups. This just is a strong looking chart, right? Solana on the daily looks similar, very small as a proportion of the percentage of the alt bags, but definitely looking to add on any move lower there. So as far as the main list, those are the coins we just looked at. And now let's take a look at some other stuff. Like I said, I had AVAX in there, but I got rid of it at 48. I think it hit the weekly cloud surprisingly early. And, you know, I didn't get the meat of this move. I got, I think, most of it on spot, but not all of it. Anything sub 28 is probably fair game for an ad, but it just looks a little overheated to me right now. Rune, very much the same, right? It looks like it's kind of trying to make a rounded top here. Anything below 440, ideally closer to 220. We'll see what we get as far as a pullback, but you know, you can see there's a horizontal support resist somewhere between 220, 250 on Rune. Upside's kind of limited as well. You know, same thing with AVAX. The upside gets better the lower we go, so then to me that becomes a better risk reward setup. If I assume the upside is going to be 80 eventually. Matic is just kind of a mess. Probably not going to rotate into this one at any point, but it's on my watch list because I know a lot of people are paying attention to Matic. The daily just looks like noise to me. It doesn't look like anything in particular. So I like Matic probably better above 120, but right here I think it could just chop around for a while. Uni, similar to Aave and SNX, looks fine, right? It's in the weekly cloud, bullish TK cross. I just wouldn't want to dive back down into this 350 to 450 hell where you're just kind of ranging forever. But upside potential is definitely there. INJ is well beyond its previous all-time high. So as far as buying strength, I don't think that's a problem to buy it up here. I'm not in it at all at the moment, but it's definitely on the watch list on any pullback. Whatever the daily Kijun would be, probably sub 35, I'd imagine. But the chart looks great, right? Anything that looks like this, you know, to me, there's nothing to do. It's just you ride that sucker until you have a reason not to on the weekly. And so far, it's only been bullish continuation. Now, as we get to the GameFi stuff, the NFT stuff, all these charts look extremely beaten down, right? So they are an option as a trading setup. Realistically, as a percentage of your alt bags, I just don't know how much it's worth jumping into this stuff. So flow looks fine on the 3-day cloud, right? It's got a little bit of time left on it. FTM looks fine, probably better than you know, Sand or Mana or AXS. All those charts all look the same to me. FTM a little bit different, a little bit better. Clearly a double bottom here, massive range that it could recapture. So it looks great from a upside potential perspective. Sand and Mana and AXS all to me are the same chart. So if we do start to see user participation in GameFi pop up again or whatever, any sort of activity is bullish. You know, you can look into that on dapradar.com, I think it is, has the numbers on that. But I'm sure there's other places where you can find the user data, and I'm sure all of that user data mimics price. It's just down and to the right, has been for the past 2 years. So it looks to me like it's starting to come back price-wise, and these are definitely worth throwing on the watch list just to see what happens if nothing else. But, you know, on this chart, Mana, you can see the diagonal resistance pretty clearly. Anything above 55 cents at this point would be super bullish. So I think these are worth paying attention to and waiting out and seeing if something can happen. But I think it's a little too early to start rotating into those. Kava, some of these charts have, you know, better looking inverted head and shoulders than others. I think this one, again, needs a little bit of time. And something I did with everything on the watch list is I plotted it against ETH. And against ETH, most of these charts are making either all-time lows or new lows. So that's just another reason not to rotate into them right now. If ETH is going to outperform in the near term, you know, what's the point, right? So if you are actively rotating, I definitely recommend comparing some of these against ETH just to see, is there even a viable setup there? Does that suggest strength relative to ETH? My guess is for most of these charts, no, because I looked at them. But for something like FET or Arbitrum or Optimism, you'll probably see strength relative to ETH. This to me just looks like a massive inverted head and shoulders. The weekly move looks to have played out, but upside potential 2-3x from here. So all in all, the way I play alts is long-term, boring, snooze fest. I know some people are hyperactive rotating That's not me, but whatever works for you, right? I would rather trade alts with Bitcoin or ETH collateral than mess around with like spot leverage or something on an alt. So again, I'll leave all this in the description of the video. You can check out the spreadsheet, make fun of me or not, or think about your own bags in a different way. Hopefully it gets you thinking as far as what you're looking at and what to formulate on a coin by coin basis. That's all for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.